After nearly a decade of relentless conquest and imperial rule, Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of the French, finally faced his downfall. In the War of the Sixth Coalition, a formidable alliance of Russia, Britain, Prussia, and their allies dealt him a decisive defeat. Bound by the terms of the Treaty of Fontainebleau, Napoleon was forced into exile on the remote island of Elba.
They believe they have defeated me. But this island is not the end. It is merely an interval. Let them celebrate their false victory. Soon, Europe will witness the return of its true master.
On August 15, 1769, Napoleon Bonaparte was born on the island of Corsica, a land that just a year earlier had been ceded from Italy to France under the Treaty of Versailles after centuries under Genoese rule. He was born into a noble but impoverished family. His father, Carlo Bonaparte, was a lawyer and local politician who dreamed of a brighter future for his children. At the age of 9, Napoleon was sent to France to continue his education, a place where the language, culture, and even identity felt foreign to him. Nevertheless, his talent and perseverance earned him admission to the Brienne Military Academy. At 16, he graduated from the Paris Military Academy as a second lieutenant of artillery, marking the beginning of a journey that would forever change the course of European history. In 1789, the French Revolution erupted. A revolution that shattered the centuries-old rule of the Bourbon monarchy and plunged the nation into chaos. For the young Napoleon, this upheaval became a historic opportunity. Serving in the Royal Army at the time, he now witnessed the fall of the aristocracy and the rise of the new republic, opening fresh paths for ambition and advancement. As many noble-born officers fled the country or were dismissed, Napoleon seized this power vacuum to his advantage. With his brilliant military mind and boundless ambition, he quickly caught the attention of the leaders of the newly formed republic. The French Revolution did more than just transform the political structure of France. It became a launchpad for a man like Napoleon, elevating him from a young and unknown lieutenant to a national hero. Napoleon's first major appearance on the battlefield came in 1793, during the Siege of Toulon. After the French Revolution, royalist forces in Toulon revolted and handed the city's strategic port over to the British Navy. At the time, Napoleon, then a young artillery lieutenant, proposed a brilliant plan. Instead of a direct assault, the heights surrounding the harbor and the British positions had to be captured first. When his strategy was put into action, Napoleon's artillery unleashed devastating fire, forcing the British to retreat and allowing the Republic's forces to reclaim the city. This victory earned the 24-year-old Napoleon a rapid promotion to brigadier general, marking the beginning of his astonishing rise to power.
It was I who liberated Toulon from the Royalists. It was I who shattered the British fleet and drove them from my country's soil. On that day, I restored glory to the Republic.
J'ai rendu sa gloire à la République.
On October 5th, 1795, Paris was engulfed in chaos. The Royalists, seeking to restore the monarchy, rose in rebellion. The Directory, the five-member government of France at the time, was under intense pressure, and if this uprising succeeded, the French Revolution would effectively fail. Napoleon, who was only 26 years old and had just gained some recognition after Toulon, was appointed to command the defense of the government. Quickly and calmly, he positioned the army's artillery and prepared grapeshot, deadly rounds that could tear through hundreds with a single shot. When the Royalists entered the Place Saint-Roch, Napoleon gave the order to open fire. The thunder of cannons echoed through the heart of Paris. Within a few hours, the streets of Paris were covered in blood, and the revolt was crushed. This event became known as a whiff of grapeshot that saved the revolution. And from that moment, Napoleon's name spread across France. Impressed by his courage and decisive action, the Directory soon handed him the command of the Army of Italy, a decision that would change the fate of Europe.
La République était au bord de
I
l'effondrement.
was the savior of the French Revolution. Back then, the Republic stood on the edge of collapse, and the Bourbons were ready to return and reclaim their throne. I was the one who stopped them. I ordered the cannons, and I crushed their forces in the streets. That day, I saved the Republic, and France owes its survival to me.
After crushing the Royalist uprising and saving the Republic in Paris, Napoleon Bonaparte married Josephine de Beauharnais in 1796. Josephine, a beautiful and experienced woman with powerful political connections, would play a pivotal role in both his personal life and his rise to power. Shortly after their marriage, driven by hope and boundless ambition, Napoleon set out for Italy, determined to etch his name into history forever. In 1796, Napoleon Bonaparte was appointed commander of the French army in Italy, an army that seemed exhausted, demoralized, and weak, but under his leadership it transformed into a formidable force. During this campaign, Napoleon achieved decisive victories in key battles such as Lodi, Arcole, and Rivoli, defeating the Austrian forces and their allies. These successes elevated Napoleon's fame to unprecedented heights. He was no longer just a young commander. He had become a national figure, a symbol of France's military genius and power, paving the way for his greater ambitions.
With that weak and starving army, I won 3 important battles. Step by step, we pushed the French territory all the way into northern Italy and forced the Austrian forces to retreat.
à battre en retraite.
In 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte set out for Egypt. Through this ambitious expedition, he captured Cairo and brought key regions of the country under French control, disrupting Britain's vital trade routes to the east. His victories in Egypt not only expanded France's influence across the Mediterranean, but also elevated Napoleon's name on the international stage, turning him into a global figure in both military and political history. After consolidating his power in Egypt, Napoleon Bonaparte returned to France. Through a carefully planned coup and with the support of his allies and loyal generals, he overthrew the Directory and seized control. He then declared himself First Consul of France, effectively placing absolute power in his hands. During this period, Napoleon centralized the government's authority through administrative, financial, and legal reforms, and by introducing the Napoleonic Code, he established a new legal order for France. This moment marked the beginning of a new era, the birth of Napoleon's power. On December 2, 1804, at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, Napoleon Bonaparte was crowned Emperor of the French in a magnificent ceremony. Pope Pius VIII was present, but Napoleon, breaking with tradition, took the crown and, bypassing the Pope, placed it upon his own head. This symbolic act made it clear that his power did not come from the Church, but from his own strength and will. After his coronation in 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte swiftly consolidated his power in France and, with a formidable army, conquered vast parts of Europe within just a few years. He brought northern Italy, Austria, parts of Germany and Spain under French influence, extending his dominance across the Mediterranean and deep into the heart of Europe. During this time, one European coalition after another formed against him. But Napoleon, with his military genius, defeated them in a series of battles, rising as an unrivaled power on the continent.
I conquered all of Europe, and we had grown stronger than any of our enemies. My empire was the strongest, and from the western shores to the eastern lands of Europe, it was under my rule. I only hope no one like me ever gets their army stuck in the Russian winter.
After several years of dominance in Europe, Napoleon entered into conflict with Russia. His attempt to force Tsar Alexander I to comply with the economic sanctions against Britain faced fierce resistance from Russia. These tensions eventually led Napoleon toward the grand invasion of Russia in 1812, where the fate of his empire was profoundly affected. In 1812, Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Russia with a massive army. However, The Russians, employing the scorched earth strategy, destroyed all resources, towns, and supplies to prevent the enemy from using them. The French army was forced to advance through harsh cold and severe food shortages, facing stiff resistance at every step. This disaster crippled the French forces and marked the beginning of the gradual decline of Napoleon's empire. After entering Moscow, Napoleon faced a harsh reality. The city was nearly evacuated and set on fire, leaving him and his massive army trapped in severe cold with no resources. Thousands of French soldiers perished during the advance and retreat, falling victim to cold, starvation, and Russian guerrilla attacks. Meanwhile, the Sixth Coalition of Europe, including Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, united once again against him, pressing Napoleon on multiple fronts. After a series of consecutive defeats, Napoleon was forced to return to France, and in 1814 he abdicated the throne. The coalition exiled him to the island of Elba, marking the end of the First French Empire and the beginning of the decline that would forever seal his name in history. In March 1815, Napoleon made his final decision. He would return to France to reclaim his crown and leave exile. On the French coast, he encountered soldiers sent to kill him, and, addressing them, he asked, "Are you not ashamed to kill your emperor?" These words shamed the soldiers and regained their loyalty. The people of France welcomed him back, supported his return, and he prepared for battle. Napoleon gathered his forces to face his enemies once again. On this path, the decisive Battle of Waterloo unfolded, an epic and dramatic clash, echoing with swords, cries, and the heartbeat of soldiers, where every move and decision of Napoleon had a profound impact on the battlefield. Napoleon fought with all his courage and genius, but fate was merciless. Ultimately, the historic moment of the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte arrived. The battlefield of Waterloo delivered the final blow to his wounded empire, removing him forever from power. In the end, Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of France and conqueror of Europe, was exiled to the island of Saint Helena, where he died in isolation and solitude. The legend that once shook Europe came to a quiet end, and his name remained forever immortalized in history.